Maybe I've been thinking about writing a book for a long time, a second book. The first book was all about the stages of mastery in karate. And one of the things that I think I've mastered is teaching karate. So I want to share with you stories, teaching methods, successes, failures that I have come upon owning my own karate school, teaching karate, working with students of all ages for the past 20 years. 20 years teaching, 15 years, 16 years owning a karate school. But I think I'm somebody who, whether I'm the owner of the school or the teacher, you know, I take it seriously. Although I really was pretty crappy in the beginning. Oh, I was so awful. My stepsister said to me one day, her 2 kids had taken my class, and at the end of the class, she said, well, they were still thinking about karate at the end of the class. And I remember at the time, I took that as a compliment. And now I think to myself, how awful is that? That's the best that I could do, was keep them thinking about punches and kicks by forcing them to stand and kibidashi and throw punches forever like the adult, you know, old school traditional classes did, because I never cared. We could stand in kibidashi and throw punches and blocks and let our legs burn and get all torn up, and I loved it anyway. It didn't matter. We were doing karate. We were punching. We were kicking. We were blocking. I love that. Doesn't matter what we do. But teaching a kids class and teaching in this decade, it's just different. People are more aware of abuse and what that feels like and what it looks like, and that it's not okay. And there's so much abuse in the tradition of karate, and so much abuse and disrespect in our nation, in our towns, in our families, in our homes. And it's taken me a long time to really exit that old teaching strategy and come into my own that has, and even as close as last year, I finally began to identify my own toxic role in the drama triangle, right? I was playing the role, but I know when I started, I certainly didn't have a curriculum that I knew in my mind. I certainly didn't understand how people learn, but I made it my business to learn that. I made it my business to read outside of karate. I made it my business to read business books, right? Because I own my own business. And amazingly, you know, we've survived 2008. We survived 2014. And, you know, 2014 might not seem like a big deal, but for us as a family, it was one of those. 2014 for us as a family was like how 2020 is for most people right now, right? We had injuries, we had somebody pass away, we had frozen pipes, we had issues with the building that we thought were irreconcilable. So my goal in sharing the information is just to, you know, to tell people, man, life happens one day at a time. Teaching happens one day at a time. And mastery happens one day at a time. In order to get better, stick with it. I think I need to read more. There was a time when I go through phases. I do really well reading and then not so well. But I try to consume, I call it curating my thoughts, like curating the information that comes in. And there's some really great books out there that will teach you about how people think and how people learn and how people operate and what motivates people. And when you're a teacher, motivation is really your job, because if your students don't want to learn, there's nothing you can do about that. There's nothing you can do that. So if you don't create a culture that is safe, so that all different types of learners can come to you. I think that's one of the challenges or problems in the martial arts, is that there are some schools that are not safe, so therefore there are less women in them, or therefore there are less, men that have certain interests or whatnot. So, only the tough guys come, or only the super elite, talented, capable is a funny word, right? But like, I'd actually much prefer to have a student who's not naturally talented in karate, but just loves it and is willing to work for it. Because even the people who are naturally talented, and I think I wrote about this in my other book, but even the people who are naturally talented will eventually run out of natural talent to bring them to that mastery level. And so if they don't walk into that space where refinement is what they need, then they won't have the work ethic to make it to the higher levels. You've got to be willing to put in the work. So think about Carol Dweck and she's probably Dr. Dweck, right? And her book, Mindset. And Duckworth has the book Grit. I didn't really like that book, to tell you the honest truth, mostly because I have a little bit different take on things. But what I like about both of them is that they're researchers, and that they do their due diligence to create a foundation of facts and science to back up what it is they have to say. And, maybe I don't have that degree, or I don't have that sort of academic background, but man, I have time in the classroom, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours teaching in the classroom, and real life experimentation of what works and what does not work. The single worst thing you can say to a kid, and it happened at somebody's blue belt test one time. There was a guest instructor from another school who didn't abide by my philosophies. And so this child, super, super talented, naturally talented, very, very smart kid, tests for his blue belt. Guest instructor says, "That was the best blue belt test I've ever seen. Blah, blah, blah. You're so talented." Wrong thing to say. Because if somebody thinks they've got it, if somebody thinks it's easy, then why bother engaging? Our brains want a challenge. And telling somebody that they're the best in the room, telling somebody they're so perfect, they're so wonderful, telling somebody they're better than everybody else. You know what I'd rather do? I'd rather say to somebody, "I know you can see what other people are doing, but I want you to know that between you and me," connection, right? "Between you and me, I expect more of you. I know you know how to kick. I know you know how to block. But do you know how to do it at the highest levels?" And the answer to that right now is no. There's work to do. It's not a bad thing to build somebody up and to compliment them. I'm not saying that. It's a bad thing to take away that which they could strive for. That's the worst thing you can do, is take away the vision, being better, getting better. So whether you have a class of 20 people of exactly the same interest level, physical ability, class attendance, parental support, and let's be clear, you'll never have that. You'll never have 20 people who all need the same thing from you. Pay attention. Listen, watch. Are they shutting down? Are they opening up? Do they feel good? Are they trying their best? I have one student who has a brain injury, traumatic brain injury. And oftentimes, it looks like this person isn't trying. And I have to dig deep on this because I really do come from like, work ethic is, the end all be all. So I have to go into my knowledge base as a teacher and my logical understanding of who that person is, instead of reacting with my emotional teacher person, right? Because those are two different people. The emotional teacher is rah, rah, good job. Wow, you're so great, you're so awesome, right? But the logical teacher looks at the behavior and identifies the root cause of the behavior and can speak to it and draw a person out of a bad place or propel them into a good place. That's a master teacher. And they can do it 20 different ways with 20 different people. And it's so exciting to do. It's so exciting to be in that place where we block, we kick, we punch, right? Because that's old hat. Because the curriculum is deep in you. It's in your bones. And you know where we're going on the physical level, right? You know that people learn A before B, before C, before D, and you can lay out the curriculum in such a way that it matches the way 80% of your population learns, right? Because 80% of the people are just going to kind of follow along and do what you ask them to do. But those 80%, even if they're doing that, they're going to have challenges at different times. So, here's an interesting idea. 80% of your class on any given day, but it's not always the same 20% who needs you. Does that make sense? So like 80% are going to show up with, they had a good day, they ate well, they slept well, they're feeling good about themselves. But 20% of your class is always going to be a little bit somewhere else. A little bit somewhere else. That happened last night. I saw the size of the class, super small. Saw the size of the class and I was like, oh, well, we can be really belt rank driven in this class and do exactly what they need to move forward to the next thing. Let me tell you something. 9 months into COVID, a few days before Christmas, little kids are feeling the same stress that the grown-ups are feeling. No, don't ever count stress out for kids. Gosh, they have as much as the big people do. Start to set the standard, start to move the class. Somebody's not totally engaged, push them a little, tears. Whoa, whoa. Hey buddy, what's up? You other guys, do this while I'm talking to him. They're older, they're capable, they're smart, they've got things they can do, right? You guys go, self-motivate while we deal with the tears. Teacher mind in the back? Okay. A person who's being emotional does not need organized, structured, kata, memorized movement. The class is going to have to switch gears, like it or not. Like it or not, as the instructor, this class has to switch gears because it has become not appropriate for that 20%, for that one kid out of 30%, right? But for that one kid, well, 25%, I was in a good place. So I deviated from my story a little bit about my student with a traumatic brain injury and looking lazy. The logical part of me knows if that person looks lazy, I've messed up as an instructor in one or two different ways. Either I gave too much information that wasn't understood, so they're confused and don't know how to execute. That's possible. It might have been me. I might have talked for too long. I could do that. And lost that person, right? Because words just, that's the thing I don't like about teaching certain people online, is there are so many physical cues and so many things I do in person, like, you know, the touch of an arm, the fix of a position, you know, the eye contact, the the kick with a foot, you know, like just, there's so much you could do in person that you can't do online. So it's very easy to lose certain people a lot faster. But anyway, if that person isn't paying attention, I used to say, hey, pay attention. Now I know I need to provide better direction, more clear direction, or some type of, oftentimes that person has somebody else in the room with them, give them a physical cue. Hey, somebody tap that left leg. This is the one we're using, right? I wear my watch on the left side, and I wear it during class, and everybody knows it's on my left side, and I remind them. And so I use that, you know, as a cue. Now, are you supposed to teach karate with a watch on? No, you're not supposed to wear a watch when you teach karate. But you know what? If you have to shift, and there's a purpose and a reason for it, then screw the tradition and shift. Gosh, there's so many people spending so much time and energy sticking to a curriculum or sticking to a way of teaching, right? Oh my God, karate people, right? The way, Tao, Do, the way of something, Mandalorian. This is the way. This is the way we do it. And that's such a trap. This is the way we do it. Is such a trap of mindless following or mindless teaching, taking over for somebody and continuing to do things the way that they did it. What if the way, here's an example in karate, I always use this one, but it's a good one. If you hit me, I'll hit you harder. Okay. So on the surface, not on the surface. The defense of that is to say, right, there's this like code that goes behind that action, but the action isn't read on the other side with the same complexity, okay? So the action is, and the words out of the instructor's mouth oftentimes, right, are, if you hit me hard, I'll hit you harder. Right? We lean in, we look them in the eye, and we warn them. Maybe 10 years ago I used to do this. I don't do this anymore. And there's a reason, and you'll find out why. If you hit me hard, I'll hit you harder. Now, here's the complexity. I'm the black belt. I'm the sensei. I'm a better martial artist than you. I'm stronger and more dangerous and more accurate and powerful than you. I'm being nice. And if you start hitting me hard, I'm going to stop being nice and I'm going to hit you. But don't we teach people how to block? So if they hit harder, shouldn't I be good enough to block that? If you hit me, I'm gonna hit you back. You're just being a damn bully. Because what's red on the other side is they're threatening me. They're warning me ahead of time that they're about to be a bully. How considerate of them. How considerate to be threatened. If I do my best, I'm going to get punished for it. Now, as a black belt, people try to kill you all the time. Oh my gosh. Oh, their egos get all bound up and wound up in the sparring and in the fight. And you get that black belt on. Oh, God forbid you have a red and white belt on, right? You have a little higher rank belt on. And they think, on the other side, they're like, if I touch you, I beat you. But only because we set that paradigm in place. We are the ones who set it in place. And so things escalate, or people get hurt, or you know what worse? People quit. People quit because the dojo is a mean place to go. That's a bunch of crap. I figure we teach punching it and kicking it and blocking and kata and sparring. It's just the vehicle. I could teach piano and still teach respect. Right now, did that other situation, did that teach respect? No, it taught fear. Doesn't teach respect, it teaches fear. And fear is not respect. Fear is power struggle. Fear is inequity. Fear is I'm better than you, and you're gonna know about it. And fear begs to be toppled. Begs it for people to try to fight against it or run away. And it creates such an unhealthy environment to be in. And yet so many of us go back and back and back and back and back and back. I grew up in the abusive dojo and consciously decided it wasn't who I wanted to be as an instructor. You could look at my instructor and say that she's more fierce than I am. 100%. She's a freaking scary person. And she had a balance. She had a balance of being a super kind person on the other side. But that was a facade. So I tried to be the hero. I tried to be the hero in the situation to save the abused women. But inevitably, the victim in the drama of an abusive situation had the villain of a husband, and I came in as the hero, told them they were worthwhile, they didn't need to be there, built up their confidence till they were ready to leave, and then they leave. And someone who's a professional victim needs a villain. They need a villain for everything to play out. And if you're the strongest person in their world, you will become the villain. I refuse to do that anymore. I refuse. I won't do it. But I did it voluntarily more than once. I don't regret it. I knew it was going to happen. The last time in particular, as one thing was unraveling, I knew that I was going to step into that role, whether I wanted to or not, that I was going to be put into that role because of my strength of character, because of my lack of empathy, because of my straightforwardness. I knew that I was going to take that role. So I don't look for those relationships anymore. Adult students are the worst for that kind of crap. They really are. Because they're manipulative and they don't know it. Or maybe they do. I don't know. I don't understand it. That's one of those things I really have received it. Maybe not deep on understanding the why behind it, but I've sure lived the how. Let's talk about frameworks. I use frameworks all the time to teach with. It's been a little theme in the last few weeks that I kind of recognize how strong they are for me. And a framework can be something simple and finite and small, like a going to bed routine, right? You brush your teeth, you comb your hair, you put on your pajamas, you read a book, you shut off the light, you go to bed, like whatever. Whatever your going to bed routine is. But it's a framework. It's a framework because you decide, you come up to that time of the day and you say, I'm going to go to bed now. And that starts the framework. When my children were little, they realized right early that if I said out loud, it's time to go to bed, they knew damn right well they had 20 minutes. Because when I went in the laundry room to put my pajamas on, I'd be like, oh, the laundry's not done, and I'd do the laundry. Then I'd come back out and something else would have to be done. So they knew that they had 20 minutes because my going to bed framework just included too damn much. But that's a framework. There's like a moral code framework, right? If you go to church, right? 10 Commandments, right? That's an easy example. We do this, we don't do this, we do this, we don't do that. We abide by these rules. We abide by this framework. And frameworks are good. Frameworks are good. Dan Pink says that his research, right, says that motivation is led by three things: purpose, mastery, and autonomy. The ability to choose, right? Karate's got purpose, self-defense, make yourself better, stronger, safer, smarter, right? It's got mastery. You could do it forever and never be as good as you're going to be tomorrow when you work hard. But karate never used to have a lot of autonomy in my classes, though. This is what we're doing, when we're doing, how we're doing, when I say. And then we're done, when I say. Not very motivating, by the way. Not very challenging, by the way. Not able to give people free thinking opportunities, by the way. And although autonomy means choice, when you narrow the field of choices by creating a framework, you get much better results. Much better results. Too many choices lead to overwhelm, indecision, and freezing, right? Overwhelm leads to Facebook, right? I don't know what to do. I'm going to deviate by distracting myself with something useless because I'm overwhelmed and I can't make a decision. Frameworks allow you to make decisions. So for example, teaching class last week, I looked at the group of people. I look at the class every time and I ask myself, what do these people need of me today? And I categorize who's in front of me. Are they white belts? Are they blue belts? Are they green belts? Are they beginners? Are they advanced? What can this group of people handle? What can I handle as a teacher today? Can I do a detailed, in-depth, deep dive with, like my brain as the support of that? Or did I have a hard emotional day? And I wouldn't talk about that so much, but like COVID's hard on everybody. My business went to hell this year. Went to hell. And there's just a lot of stressors like in the air right now, right? pull up the news, you go down the street, you wear the mask, you take the mask off, you forget the mask, you go back to your car. Like just these little stupid things that you never had to think about before. And they're just like a little pebble of sand, but they can really add up by the end of the day. You know, when it's 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or time for karate class. So look at this group of people. And I think, what are we going to do today? And I'm like, all right, let's start with front kicks. Kicks are a good framework. We're going to do kicks today. Whew. So all of my choices, blocks, whew, now out the window. Punches, now out the window. Kata, out the window. Sparring, out the window. Block and counter, out the window. Whew. Kicks. Let's do a front kick. Now all I have to do is go through the list of kicks. Do a front kick, do a roundhouse kick, do a side kick, put 2 kicks together, do a spinning kick, right? Do a jump kick, do 2 kicks together, do 2 kicks that way and 2 kicks that way, right? So now my theme or my framework for the class has been defined. So all of my choices, I'm not choosing from the whole stratosphere. My choices are finite, and I can make 60 minutes out of kicks. And not only that, but because I've limited myself, and 40 minutes in, I start running out of the things I might normally do with kicks. Now I'm inside this framework, and I've done all the stuff I know. Now I get to be creative inside the limitations of the theme that I chose. So after a certain point, I actually start doing more or different things than I've ever done before, because the framework has defined my path, and I'm interested in challenging myself inside of the purpose and the rules of that path. Super important, super important. What's another example of a framework that I can share with you? The same type of thing as far as choosing class structure, right? We're gonna work on kata today. Boom, now I don't have to think about it. If I don't wanna think, we do kata, right? Especially if I'm with an advanced group. All right, you guys, we're gonna do 2 of every kata. 2 of those, 2 of those, 2 of those, 2 of those. We start running out of time or running out of katas, then I can get creative. But I've had enough time to be in the class myself to regain my status, my mental status, if it was at risk at the beginning. It's so funny to talk like that, but it's been a stressful time, right? What's another example of a framework? We're going sledding. Do you have snow? If you don't have snow, you're not going sledding, right? So the framework defines, the rules of the framework decide if it's going to happen and what's going to happen in the midst of it. So I challenge you to think about, what are you doing during the day? Are you overwhelmed by, so that was teaching. And now it occurs to me, like, as a parent, right? As a parent, we have people right now during COVID, we have people who are trying to parent and work online and teach their kids and create enough, like, literally have the bandwidth in your house to make all that happen. I read somewhere, or maybe I saw it like on social media or something, and this woman, they had a jar in their house, and there's 26 little cards in it, letters of the alphabet. Oh, I remember. This is when I worked at the portrait studio, and this woman came in, and she had her 2 kids with her, and she's like, portraits. We chose out of the jar of letters today the letter P. So we're going on a picnic, we're having portraits done, and we're gonna play pickleball, whatever. And that's the same, that's a framework, right? She's like, I don't know what it's going to be. The jar is going to decide. Here's the letter. What can we do inside this framework? Super, super smart. Super smart. More organized than I was ever able to be. To me, having to go to the jar every day would be confining. Like, I need more choice than that, right? Like, that wouldn't work for me over a long period of time. However, you know, like if we're gonna go to the beach, we're gonna swim, we're gonna bring toys, we're gonna bring towels, we're gonna do sunscreen, right? The activity creates the environment. If we're gonna go skiing, we need ski passes, we need boots, we need skis, we need the right clothes, we need good weather, right? We need to drive there, we need the time. So choosing a framework can just make things simpler for you as a parent, as a teacher, as an employee, right? And especially in this kind of land of distraction, right? Facebook does not fit into kicking. Facebook is an F, it's not a P, right? You have to go to Pinterest. Today you'd have to go to Pinterest, okay? So that's my 2 cents on frameworks.